My wife couldn't have kids, so we adopted a daughter from the foster system. Little did I know, it would turn into a living nightmare. On her 18th birthday, she burst out of my room, screaming that I'd assaulted her. My wife backed her up, corroborating the whole story. I was speechless, utterly defenseless. I ended up paying her a huge settlement. My wife divorced me, and I lost everything. My job as a professor was suspended. I was publicly shamed, a pariah in my own community. Eventually, crippled by depression, I jumped from a high rise. It was only after my death that the horrifying truth was revealed. Then, I opened my eyes, and I was back on the day of her 18th birthday. "Dad, it's my 18th birthday. What did you get me?" Ashley whined, tugging at my arm. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I was reborn. I looked down at this wolf in sheep's clothing, a chill running down my spine. "Ashley, I got you a beautiful dress. Go try it on so your dad can see," Sarah, my wife, said, emerging from the bedroom with a gift box, her eyes full of adoration for Ashley. Ashley snatched the box excitedly and ran off to change. It was on this day, in that very dress, that she'd run from my study, conveniently into a group of relatives, friends, and colleagues who were there for her party. "John! You monster! You abused your own daughter!" They'd screamed. The police were called. I was arrested, completely bewildered. And Sarah, my wife of 20 years, had stood there and accused me. Ashley had just turned 18, the adopted daughter angle. It all painted me as a social predator, a monster. The university suspended me. Students who once admired me spat in my face. Ashley demanded $1 million. Under immense public pressure, I paid, using my parents' inheritance. Sarah divorced me, taking everything I had left. Then came the depression, the jump, the end. After my death, I saw them, Sarah and Ashley, arm in arm with a strange man at the scene of my suicide. "Dad, how do I look?" Ashley's sweet voice snapped me back to reality. Looking at her, I noticed a striking resemblance to Sarah, almost like a younger version. We'd adopted Ashley when she was 2. After that, Sarah poured all her energy into her, even giving her her last name. Even so, I never suspected they could be mother and daughter. I pulled away from Ashley, uncomfortable. "It's beautiful," I mumbled. "I'm going to the store to get groceries. We'll have a lot of guests tonight." I stood up and walked out. "Wait, John." Sarah called after me. I froze, turning back to face them. "Don't forget Ashley's favorite cherry cake," she said, beaming. "I won't," I replied. "I won't forget what you did to me either. This second chance wouldn't be wasted. They would pay." I returned from the store. Sarah and Ashley were out getting manicures. I rushed to my study and installed the hidden cameras I just bought. I tested the network connection to my phone. Everything worked perfectly. I left the study and started cooking. Ashley's party included family, friends, colleagues, even some faculty from the university. I had almost finished cooking when Sarah and Ashley returned, bubbling with excitement. They showed off their nails and makeup. Ashley then pulled me onto the couch. "Dad, you've been working so hard. Let me give you a massage." She started kneading my shoulders. Sarah brought me a glass of iced tea from the kitchen. "Honey, have some tea." To any outsider, we were the perfect family. I glanced at the tea, pushing it aside. "I just had some water. I'm not thirsty right now." Sarah looked taken aback. It was the first time I'd ever refused her. She shot Ashley a look. Ashley picked up the tea and offered it to me. "Dad, thank you for everything. For raising me. Please, have this tea. Consider it a toast from your daughter. I appreciate the thought, honey, but I'm really not thirsty. I'll drink it later." I pushed the glass away again. I could see undissolved white granules at the bottom. Ashley hesitated, clearly surprised I'd refused her twice. "Dad, do you hate me? You won't even drink the tea I made for you." She started to cry, looking utterly heartbroken. "John, just drink the tea. Don't upset her." "It's her birthday," Sarah urged, but her eyes held a strange, searching look. Ashley offered the tea again. "John, drink it," Sarah insisted, snatching the glass and pushing it towards my lips. I opened my mouth to protest, but she pinched my nose, forcing me to swallow. I choked. She kept pushing until I'd finished the entire glass. I looked at the woman I'd loved for over a decade, her face contorted in a cruel smirk, and I felt a surge of bitter amusement. Almost immediately, I felt dizzy, my eyelids heavy. "Sarah, I feel lightheaded. I think I'm coming down with something." I tried to stand, but Sarah just smiled. "Maybe you are. Ashley, help your dad to bed." Ashley took my arm. "Come on, Dad, let's get you to bed." She led me to the small bed in my study. Sarah insisted I sleep there because my snoring kept her awake. I'd been sleeping in the study for over 13 years. As soon as she laid me down, she gave me a little shove. "Dad? Are you asleep?" When I didn't respond, she called out, "Mom. The idiot's finally out. Your plan worked. Luckily, I'd taken an antidote before they got home, anticipating their move. Sarah came in and kicked me a few times. Satisfied I was unconscious, she started talking. John, it's all your parents' fault. That stupid Will, leaving everything to you. Nothing for me, their daughter-in-law. Well, don't blame me for what happens next. Now I understood. It was about my parents' inheritance. I came from an old money family. My parents had bought a house downtown years ago. It was now worth millions. They'd made a will, leaving everything to me, excluding Sarah. They hadn't approved of our marriage. Sarah was a high school graduate, and I was a college professor. Those people will be here any minute. This will ruin him. He'll lose his job. Everything. Sarah kicked me again, then slapped me a few times. Mom, what if you hurt him too much? What if someone notices? Ashley asked, worried. That's the point. It'll look like he fought back. Sarah sneered. She grabbed Ashley's shirt, ripping it. When your grandpa gets here, you run to him and tell him John's been abusing you for years. With everyone here, they'll believe you. Mom, I'm scared, Ashley whispered. Do you want us to be a family again? Or do you want to keep calling this man Dad? He's the reason we're in this mess. Now get it together. Sarah snapped, a chilling contrast to her usual maternal facade. A family? Was Ashley really Sarah's daughter? But Sarah was infertile. That's why we adopted. Sarah's phone buzzed. She grinned. Get ready. They're here. She had an accomplice. She left the room. Ashley looked at me. Don't blame me, John. Blame yourself for standing in the way of our family's happiness. A knock at the door. The moment Sarah opened it, Ashley ran out, disheveled, throwing herself into the arms of the university president. Grandpa, help me. He tried to, The room erupted in shock. Professor Miller? I can't believe it. What a monster. So that's why he adopted her. Sick. The president's hands trembled with rage. Where is he? Ashley pointed to the study. He's in there. He said he was going to tutor me, but then he touched me. He said he'd raised me all these years. Now that I was 18, it was his turn. That I was a girl, I belonged to someone eventually. So, she trailed off, leaving the implication hanging in the air. The president grabbed his phone to call the police. I stepped out of the study, calmly adjusting my clothes, holding up my own phone. No need to call. I already did. Seeing me emerge, Sarah and Ashley froze, Ashley's panic obvious. Sarah quickly grabbed her, pointing at me and yelling, John, you're disgusting. Ashley's your daughter. The inappropriate touching before was bad enough, but now. She trailed off, choked with fake sobs, the implication clear. Ashley buried her face in Sarah's chest, wailing dramatically. I can't believe it. Professor Miller, such a respected man. A predator. Sounds like this wasn't the first time, either. This is sickening. He should be locked up, castrated. Sarah's performance had whipped the crowd into a frenzy. The president stared at me, furious. John, what is the meaning of this? Do you understand the consequences of your actions? I walked towards them, calm. If I said I didn't do it, would you believe me? Sarah stepped forward. John, don't you dare lie. You've caused Ashley irreparable harm. Just shut up. Do you want to humiliate her further by recounting it all in public? Harm? What about the harm you've caused me? False accusations, destroying my reputation. Sarah, we were married. How could you be so vicious? I demanded. Sarah smirked. Vicious? John, since you've abandoned all shame, I'll let you die knowing the truth. She pulled out her phone, playing a video. It showed Ashley sitting at her desk, me beside her, seemingly tutoring her. The video, taken from the doorway, only showed our backs. Then, Ashley ducked under the desk, out of view, hidden by my body. She stayed there for an extended period. Taken out of context, it looked damning. The video ignited the crowd's fury. He's a monster. Arrest him. Beat him. Lock him up. Throw away the key. String him up. He's a disgrace to the profession. Several self-proclaimed vigilantes grabbed me, pinning me down. I looked up and saw a familiar face. David. David was my colleague, a rival who'd been passed over for the professorship I'd recently received. We'd never gotten along. I hadn't invited him to the party. What was he doing here? He held me down, his face a mask of righteous indignation. John, I thought you were a decent man. I'm ashamed to have lost to a scumbag like you. Today, I stand for justice. He punched me in the face. Others joined in, kicking and punching. Sarah and Ashley watched, smirking. Stop. I'll press charges for assault, I roared, struggling against them. President Thompson, look at him. No remorse. He's threatening to sue us. He's the one who should be sued. David crowed. You should never have given him the professorship. The president looked at me, disappointment etched on his face. John, tell me the truth. Did you do it? Confess now. It will be better for you when the police arrive. He was my mentor, he still cared. I didn't do anything. Why should I confess? I said firmly. David exchanged a look with Sarah. Sarah stepped forward, pulling Ashley with her. John, I see you won't listen to reason. She ripped Ashley's shirt open, revealing horrific scars on her back. Look. This is what he did to her. Every time she resisted, he beat her. Ashley sobbed, clutching her shirt. He said he gave me everything, so I had to obey. I was so scared. The crowd's anger reached a fever pitch. Even the president, who'd initially hesitated, looked disgusted. John. Have you no decency? I was seeing those scars for the first time. Sarah had been abusing Ashley. That's why Ashley was so compliant, willing to risk everything. President Thompson, revoke his tenure. We can't have someone like this associated with our university, David urged. I laughed. David, you've been waiting for this, haven't you? What are you talking about? He snapped. You'll see. Just then, a voice boomed from the doorway. Police. We received a call about an assault. Who called? The crowd parted. 2 officers stood in the doorway. I did, I said, raising my hand. Everyone stared at me, then at the officers, confused. David burst out laughing. John, you've lost your mind. Calling the cops on yourself? He probably thinks he can get a lighter sentence if he turns himself in, Sarah added. Officers, this is my adopted daughter, Ashley. This man, my husband, assaulted her. We want justice, Sarah said, resuming her act. The officers turned to me. Is this true? They're lying. They drugged me. This is all a setup. Liar. You assaulted Ashley. How dare you blame us? Sarah shrieked. I ignored her, addressing the officers. Search the kitchen. You'll find sleeping pills. One officer rushed to the kitchen. Found them. Animal tranquilizers. He held up a box. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Maybe there's more to this. Professor Miller doesn't seem like that kind of guy. He's always been so kind. He might be innocent. Ashley looked panicked, clutching Sarah's arm. Sarah glared at me. He put the drugs in Ashley's milk. He planned it all. The crowd shifted back to her side. Yeah, he must have drugged her to make it easier. Give it up, John, you're finished, David sneered, confident in his victory. Really? Then take a look at this. I opened my phone, displaying the footage from the hidden cameras. It showed Sarah pouring the tea, dropping a pill in, then spitting in it. John, I'm sending you to hell. She'd hissed. I switched to the study camera footage. You set me up. When did you install those? Sarah shrieked, lunging for my phone. The officers restrained her. He was framed. Sarah's evil. Framing her own husband, accusing him of abusing her daughter. She's insane. Ashley risked her reputation for this? What kind of grudge does she have? The tide had turned. Sarah and Ashley were taken away. Despite the video evidence, Sarah denied everything. Ashley stood by her. They were taken into custody, but Ashley, being a minor, was released. Sarah was held for questioning. Because of our marital status and the adoption, prosecution was difficult. Ashley disappeared after her release. I went home and immediately took DNA samples from Sarah and Ashley's toothbrushes for testing. The results, 99.99% match. They were mother and daughter. I then reviewed Sarah's infertility diagnosis. The clinic was a private one, run by her sister, a gynecologist. It was all a lie, a paid-for diagnosis. I sued the clinic for falsifying medical records, offering to drop the suit if they, in turn, sued Sarah and her sister for damaging their reputation. Sarah was released after 15 days. She called me immediately. John, you bastard. How dare you sue that clinic? They're suing me now. Do you know how much that will cost? $1 million, I said coldly. Sarah roared, then laughed. You think I care? We're still married. Those are your debts too. You've won nothing. Ashley's your daughter, isn't she? You lied to me all these years. How can you be so brazen? I asked. There had to be more to this than just the inheritance. You found out? You had a DNA test done? You're despicable, she spat. But you'll never know who her real father is. How does it feel, wearing that cuckold's hat for all those years? She hung up, laughing. I stared at the phone. I already know who her father is. The man with Sarah and Ashley at the scene of my suicide. David. The next day at the university, whispers followed me. My phone rang. It was the president. John, come to my office. I had a bad feeling. John, do you understand the damage this has done to the university? If you can't resolve this, we'll have to revoke your tenure, he said grimly, showing me a trending hashtag, #professor accused of assaulting daughter. No names, but clicking on it revealed a video of Ashley, wearing a mask, holding up her ID. Ashley Miller, accuse a professor at a university of years of abuse. To silence me, he had me and my mother arrested. Now he's suing her for $1 million. We have nowhere left to turn, she sobbed dramatically. The comments were brutal. Monster. Preying on his own daughter. She's just a child. He stole her future. He should be hanged. Suing them after what he did? Disgusting. He teaches at my university. I never would have guessed. Fire him. I was reliving my past life. This was how it started, the online hate campaign, the threats. President Thompson, you were there. You know what happened, I said, my voice heavy. He sighed. I do, John. But this is damaging the university's reputation. I have to act. A knock on the door. David entered, holding a tenure application. He sneered at me. Still showing your face here? Look at the mess you've made. Everyone's calling our faculty monsters. I glanced at him. Thanks in part to your efforts. What's that supposed to mean? I've had enough of you. You're incompetent, a disgrace to the profession. He grabbed my collar. I grabbed his hair. Stop it. Both of you. Get out. The president roared. We let go of each other. We're not done, Miller. I'll get that professorship yet, David hissed. I clutched the hair in my hand. Your good days are over, David. I sent the hair to a lab for DNA analysis. Expedited results came back in 3 days. Ashley was David and Sarah's daughter. David was married to the daughter of a high-ranking education official. He'd climbed the ladder using his wife's connections. A 20-year affair, a secret child. His wife, a notoriously jealous woman, would destroy him. I came home that evening to find the door open. Sarah and Ashley were lounging on the couch. Sarah smirked. Rough few days, huh? 2 choices, John. Divorce. Give me $1 million, the house, and drop the lawsuit. Or I'll ruin you, make sure you can't show your face in this city again. I laughed. You're delusional. We're the victims now, John. This has gone far enough. Let's just end it, she said, arms crossed. I looked at Ashley. You risked your reputation for this? For her? Have you thought about your future? This is all over the internet. What kind of life will you have now? Ashley looked at Sarah, then at me, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. Snap out of it. Sarah slapped Ashley hard. I'm your mother. Don't you dare side with him. I didn't bring you into this world to seduce men. You're here to make me money. Ashley cowered, clearly used to such treatment. 3 days, John. Give me the inheritance, or I'll destroy you. Sarah dragged Ashley out of the house. I checked the security cameras. Disabled. I tightened my grip on my phone, the recording app open. I'd anticipated this. The university held a symposium. Both David and I were scheduled to present. It was the president's final test. David was to unveil his latest research. I arrived early. Professor Miller, gracing us with your presence. Aren't you afraid of further tarnishing our reputation? David sneered, bumping into me as he passed. Not as much as you should be, I replied. He glared. You won't be laughing for long. The university is suspending you after today. All your accomplishments mean nothing now. You'll be remembered as a pervert. I patted his shoulder. Let's see if you're still so smug later. The symposium began. Speeches by the president and other officials, then David's presentation. As David took the stage, he spotted Sarah and Ashley in the back row, his wife sitting directly in front of them. He plastered on a smile and began. Suddenly, images flashed across the large screen behind him, photos of David and Sarah kissing, embracing. The room gasped. Turn it off. Turn off the projector, David yelled, panicked. No one responded. I'd taken care of the AV crew. The photos were followed by the DNA results, Ashley and Sarah, then Ashley and David. The room buzzed. They're a family. Professor Miller was being played. So the assault. It was all a lie? As the murmurs grew louder, the video of Sarah and Ashley's scheme played, followed by police records, then the audio of Sarah demanding the inheritance. The evidence was irrefutable. The room was stunned. David's wife was livid. She'd believed he was infertile. Now she knew he had a daughter, a secret family. Miller. You did this. You're trying to ruin me. David screamed, realizing he was exposed. You're jealous. You don't want me to publish. This is all lies. He's framing me. He lunged at me, but his wife intercepted him, slapping him hard across the face. Sarah rushed to David's defense. How dare you hit him? It's your fault you can't keep a man. I'm not the other woman. We were together years ago. You're the one who interfered. Say that again, David's wife growled. Sarah, oblivious to the danger, smirked, clinging to David. We're in love. You're the other woman. David, sensing his wife's fury, shook his head. Stop it, Sarah. Why should I? You said you don't love her. You love. Sarah's words died in her throat. David's wife pulled out a knife, plunging it into Sarah's stomach. Chaos erupted. Sarah died at the scene. David survived, but with severe internal injuries, his future filled with catheters and pain. The university fired him, discrediting his research. I dropped the lawsuit against the clinic, and they, in turn, dropped the suit against Sarah. Debt forgiven in death. Ashley watched her mother die, a flicker of something that looked almost like satisfaction in her eyes. She came to me later, asking to come home. I refused, formally terminating the adoption. Spoiled by the life I'd given her, unable to cope, Ashley turned to a life on the streets. I heard later she became a mistress, caught and brutally beaten by the scorned wife, left crippled and confined to a wheelchair. As for me, despite clearing my name, the whispers remained. I resigned, sold everything, took the inheritance, and boarded a plane. I'd spent my life working, never seeing the world. Now, alone, with nothing but money and time, I was free. I hoped for a future filled with gentle breezes, sunshine, and the vastness of the ocean.